Well, hello there. Good evening. Welcome to the latest of the Spitfire Sessions. I'm Steve Watts. I should be firing your questions tonight at our fantastic panel as we concentrate on the women's game. We may not currently be able to sit in the Les Ames stand or have a pint in the Spitfire bar, but what we can do together with Spitfire and Shepherd Neame is bring Kent cricket to your device. So thank you very much for tuning in tonight, and thank you very much for sending in an absolute deluge of advanced questions for our panel. Just before we introduce them, can I remind you about the Rainbow Run, which is taking place this Sunday. It starts at 10 o'clock. Both Kent Cricket and Shepherd Neame are proud supporters of this event, which is raising vital funds for Kent-based hospitals' COVID-19 appeals. Now, there's been a huge response from the cricket family across Kent over the last few days. We at Kent Cricket have decided to significantly raise our target distance during the event this coming Sunday. The club originally pledged to cover 150 kilometres, and now we're going to try and reach 1,870 kilometres, representing 1870, the year that Kent Cricket was formed, of course. 150th anniversary this year. Let's hope there's some cricket during it. So, to help reach that target, we're inviting everyone from across Kent to join the event this Sunday. You can run, you can walk, you can cycle, and if you like, you can even ride a horse. Just go and get one. This is the event for all of you to get involved in this coming Sunday. To find out how you can be part of it, please log on to the Kent Cricket website. That's the Rainbow Run this Sunday. Hope you get involved. Now, let's crack on to introducing tonight's panel for the Spitfire Sessions. Now, when we do these events, there are panels and then there are panels. And tonight we have a panel and a half. We've got World Cups right across this panel. We've got, goodness knows, hundreds of England caps. We've got trophies, domestic and international galore here. So let's introduce our first panelist. I don't even know where to begin with this person. Charlotte Edwards, 23 England tests, 191 ODIs, 95 T20 internationals, Kent career 2000 to 2016, World Cup winner, scores of Ashes trophies, and a member of the British Empire, an MBE in 2009, a CBE was awarded in 2014, a Wisdom Cricketer of the Year also in 2014, and the first Kent woman and a second ever woman to receive the honour. And that's the edited highlight. Charlotte Edwards, good evening to you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Locked up, but happy to see all of you. So we'll introduce our second panellist. We have Lydia Greenway with us this evening. 14 tests for England, 126 ODIs, 85 T20 internationals, Kent career 2000 to 2016 in 2011. Lydia named as the ECB's Women's Cricketer of the Year, following terrific performances against New Zealand and then against Australia. A very long career. Good evening to Lydia Greenway. How are you?
Hi, Steve. Yeah, good, thank you. Looking forward to this evening.
I think the last time I saw you, Lids, I walked past a coffee shop in Beckenham High Street. You were there supping on a chino something and munching on a, I don't know, one of those toasted things. I don't think we'll be seeing that scene for a while, sadly, but great to have you with us tonight. Completing the panel, we were going to have Laura Marsh with us tonight. Sadly, she can't join us, but hopefully we'll catch up with her sometime soon. Is the current Kent captain, Tammy Beaumont, 4 tests, 71 ODIs, 83 T20 internationals, Kent women career spanning from and a World Cup winner with us. You'll all remember that back in 2017. What do we got here? An MBE in the 2018 New Year's Honours list. The Kent captain, the last person to lift the county championship trophy. And the way it's going, Tam, you might be keeping hold of it this summer without having to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see about that, but it's good to be here tonight with two absolute legends of the game for Kent and England as well.
Absolutely. I feel a bit of a fraud sharing the screen with all of you. But before we get into the first of our advanced questions, thank you for all of them. There's so many tonight. And by the way, you can send in your questions during this chat by going onto the top of your screen on the Zoom here. Go on to Q&A and you can send your question in and we'll try and get around to it if we can. We've got 45 minutes to chat to Lydia, to Tammy and to Charlotte here. But before we begin, I thought come to you, Charlotte, I think, first of all. You've had a great day today with all the caps being awarded.
Yeah, no, yeah, very surprised actually. With me and Lyd got a cheeky email this afternoon saying, could we go on a Zoom call before tonight's session? And Paul Downton came on the line and awarded me and Lyd our caps, and very proud moment today. And both, I was 32 and Lyd's 33. So great day.
Have you got yours, Tams?
Yeah, we got Laura and I got ours from our Kent coach Dave last week. So it was a very surprise phone call, a real honour, and a really lovely thing that Kent are doing this year to honour, not only us youngsters but some players all the way back from 1935, which is just amazing. I
like that, us youngsters. So let's crack on to the first.
I'm still trying to call myself a youngster.
You are, Tammy.
You are. We're all trying. First of the advanced questions tonight. Thank you to Roger for getting in touch. It's a question we've got to deal with it. There are two things we've got to deal with tonight, and this is the first of them. How damaging to women's cricket is the postponement of the 100 competition, 100 till next year? Charlotte, your comments following that sort of very unsurprising news, sadly, of the 100 being postponed. They were well publicised. You got a few worries about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a worrying time, isn't it, for the players? It was such a big year for the women's game with, the 100 and the professional contracts coming in for the regional centres. So, and a lot of people very excited about this summer, and it was important in terms of the momentum we've gained from the recent World Cup and the recent success of the England team. So, it's come at a bad time, and I know the players were looking forward to it. I mean, me and Lyd were coaching in the competition, so it's poor timing. But obviously everyone's health at the moment is more important, and well-being, and hopefully we'll start next year with a bang, and I'm sure everyone will be looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, as you say, you were set to be one of the coaches. So were you, Lydia. How much work had already gone in here, and I'm sure you're not going to tear it up because you'll all be set for a start in 2021 with it.
Yeah, I mean, we as coaches, we've sort of got our teams in place. I think most of us would have been ready to go. We've probably only had a couple more spots to fill in terms of our squad of 15, but in terms of being ready and looking forward to the tournament, I think from a coach's point of view and also a player's point of view for the women's game, it was going to be great. We were going to be on free-to-air TV, which meant that for us, we would have been reaching so many more potential fans and young girls and women to engage with the game. So, but as Lot says, of course it's a setback, but it doesn't mean that it can't be just as good as we're all anticipating next year.
And I was told that with the 100, it kind of defeats the object to play it behind closed doors if that were to be possible later in the summer, which I understand. But Tammy, if we get to next summer and we're still in this situation, which if there's no vaccine, please, we may still be, surely we've got to launch it next year, haven't we, closed doors or not?
Yeah, I think it's the right decision to postpone it for this year, but it's got to go ahead next year. I think, the situation, like the other two have said, I think it's the time now to really act on women's cricket in this country. And, we're very well looked after at England level, but it's time to really expand the domestic game. And it must be a real shame for those kind of girls that have been hanging on for these kind of contracts going into the 100. And it's really, really disappointing for them. But, there's nothing they can do with the current situation. But I think, it's going to be really important to see how the ECB handle, women's cricket in particular next year, with kind of the regional centres and the 100 as well.
Now, the next thing we've got to ask before we can get in perhaps some more light-hearted stuff. James has sent this one in. I'm sure plenty of people want the answers or your thoughts to this one. In light of England's exit from the T20 World Cup a few months back, would the England team, the ECB, be asking the ICC for reserve days for semi-final fixtures at the next major tournament? Charlotte, you knew that the subject of reserve days or lack thereof was going to come around.
Yeah, look, I think everyone went into that tournament knowing what the deal was. I'm not sure if everyone had read the probably small print saying there wasn't going to be a reserve day, but everyone was panicking as it got closer. Look, it won't happen again. Absolutely certain of that, because what the England team had to go through that day at Sydney, and all of us really. I think me and Lyd was sat there, and it was just heartbreaking really to go out of a World Cup in that manner. It's just simply not fair. But yeah, I mean, they were the rules, and like I'm sure Tammy will say, it's disappointing, but they all knew going to that ground, if it rained, they'd probably be going home. But yeah, it doesn't make it any easier to take, and you know, I felt for them desperately that day.
Tammy, were you doing the opposite of a rain dance on that occasion?
Yeah, I don't know if it got publicised very much, but we're all trying to be really optimistic that we put our sunglasses on the bus way there, and we were like, we're going to need them today. The sun's going to come out. You know, you could say that was maybe desperation or whatever, but yeah, it was a gutting way to go out. I think, you know, yeah, quite right. You'll say we lost to South Africa in the first game and we didn't beat them. We weren't the best in our group, but in tournaments like that, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And you know, we really felt like we were building that momentum and really, you know, hitting the ground running in that kind of towards that semi-final, and to not even get a chance to show, you know, what you're about, what you can do. And it kind of makes it even harder to take. Normally when you lose, you know, you weren't good enough or you're outplayed, you can kind of come home and be really motivated. Whereas that one, it's kind of, I think it's always going to grind on you a little bit. But like Charlotte said, it's never going to happen again. It almost had to happen for things to change, and you certainly don't think that playing a World Cup in Australia you're going to need a reserve day, really.
And Lydia, I mean, I have seen comments, plenty of them at the time, well, look, you shouldn't have been in that position, and we all knew the rules going into it. But as Tammy says, big international tournament like that, you're trying to peak as you go through, surely.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, well, from England's point of view, I think they're very much coming into that semi-final with a bit of momentum behind them. But I think from a player's point of view, I don't know how the England girls felt, but I'm sure they would have preferred to have played that semi-final and perhaps lost it than have gone out the way that they did. I think as players, you always want to, I guess, be genuine in how you succeed or don't succeed in a tournament. And I know I had to interview Heather straight after it happened, and she was just absolutely gutted. And it was quite a hard interview to do. Because you could just see the disappointment. But I think, you know, the girls have already said it was unfortunately the rules. And I think moving forward, I'm sure every governing body will be getting their magnifying glass out to read that small print.
Yeah, well, surely it can't happen again. Thank you for that question. And thank you to Zahir, who's been in touch several times. We've just mentioned your Kent caps, Charlotte and Lydia. I've got a question about England caps. Who was it who gave you your England cap, and how special a moment was it, Lydia?
I think Lottie gave me most of my England caps. Yeah, I certainly remember there's a few suspect photos out of me and Lot out there. I think one in particular, I think it was my 50th cap maybe, and I certainly I had a few chubby cheeks going on.
Yeah, you did.
So yeah, off the top of my head, I think, yeah, Lottie and Mark Lane as well. I think he presented me with a cap.
For you, Charlotte?
Do you know what? I think back when I started playing, I think you sort of just got given your cap and just get out on the field, really. So yeah, I don't remember there really being any kind of presentations back in the day. It didn't mean any more to me, because once I'd got that England cap, it meant the world to me. So yeah, not probably quite as grand as what it is now, and they get ex-players to present caps, which is great. But yeah, it meant all the more to me. Whoever gave it to me, really. And
Tammy, as you're the youngster on the panel here, obviously a much more recent event for you, your first England cap. It might have been Charlotte, actually.
Yeah, it was Charlotte Edwards in the West Indies, and yeah, it was a real honour to. I think Lottie had given me my Kent cap only a couple of years before, so yeah, luckily it was a friendly face, but it certainly meant a lot. Having grown up, I even got presented a cap at, I think, under 13s by Lydia. So you know, to make my England debut with those two, when I've looked up to them so much over the years, was really, really special for me, and something I look back really fondly.
Now, Richard's been in touch. Thank you, Richard, for sending this question in. I'd love to get all three of you actually to give your thoughts on this one. Are you happy with the progress, and more especially with the coverage of the women's game? It says here in the last 5 years, but I think we can sort of say in recent times. Tammy, as a current player, how happy are you with the coverage, the media coverage, the TV coverage that you're now seeing in the women's game?
Yeah, I think particularly on the international stage now, I don't think you play many series at all without those being kind of broadcast or at the least live streamed, even when we're kind of away from home. So in particular, I think that's brilliant from where I kind of started. People back home would have to be like, oh, how can I get hold of the highlights, let alone kind of watch it live? So I think that's really, really good for the game at the moment. I'd love to see more domestic women's cricket on TV, or even just live streamed across over the internet and things like that, just to get more girls a bit more access to the coverage, young girls watching young players. I remember having to go and watch Lydia and Lottie play at one of my local clubs, and that was the first time I had heard of the England women's team when I was 10 years old. So I think having access for young girls to players like ourselves, or players that are in the 100 or things like that, is so important to kind of those young girls. And if we're not visible at the top, those girls don't believe they can get there. And kind of having visible role models, I think, is massive for young girls and boys as well.
Charlotte, you must have noticed a huge difference from when you started out, both your club, your county career and your international career, to when you finished playing. The difference in the coverage must have been enormous.
Yeah, I mean, it's unrecognisable really to the game. Me and Lyd started playing. I think made my debut in '96, and I mean, we were playing in the skirt then, so that probably gives you a bit of an idea of how far the game's moved on. But yeah, I mean, I think back then from '97, you used to get one game a year on Sky, and now every game is televised of the England women. And like Tammy says, it's so important those young girls get to see their role models. I was really lucky in '93 to watch the World Cup final it was on BBC, and it was at Lord's. England beat New Zealand, and that was my moment that I then wanted to go on and play for England. But I was really lucky that day it was on TV for me to watch it. So it's so important, and the game's moved massively in the last 3 years really. So it's great.
And Lydia, are you happy with the progress that's been made with coverage? And do you think there's still further there that we could go? I mean, obviously the abandonment of the 100. We've already touched on that, but wouldn't have been ideal. I mean, that would be a great showcase, and hopefully it will happen next year to get women's cricket to even more people. Yeah,
definitely. I think the girls have already sort of covered everything. Although I guess the one thing I would say is that the way that the game is spoken about now has become more honest. I think, a few years ago when the women's game was starting to be shown on the television and spoken about on the radio, at times it felt like people were tiptoeing around, if there was a poor piece of fielding or, a terrible shot was played, it wasn't necessarily highlighted as that. But I think now, and I'm sure, Tam, you probably feel that more than anyone as a player, I think the people talking about the game now, if there's a poor bit of cricket on their television screen, the commentators are going to pull you up on that. But I think that's because the game is very good, and it's, watching it on the television, expectations are high now of the quality and the standard of the game. And I think that's a great thing. I'm sure at times for players it's probably not, but I think it just shows that there's a huge amount of respect for the game.
If you're going to move the game forward, surely that criticism has to be there, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's what I've noticed in the World Cup. It was the first time actually commentators and the sports media were actually debating whether the England lineup was right. That's never happened in any, and Tammy must have, realised that. And there's lots of conversations because loads more people have opinions on it now and have got the knowledge of it now, because they watch so much of it, and there was mixed opinion on it, and that's something I think the players now have to deal with, because it comes with the territory now, and I think it's a good thing for the game, but it will take a bit of time for the players to probably get used to it, because it's just not been around, and it's not in our domestic game either. So like Tammy said, I think the more we can get domestic cricket on TV, then you can kind of prepare players for playing for England then.
Thank you very much to David, who sent in a couple of questions. This one aimed at both you, Charlotte, and you, Lydia. As coaches currently, what can I do to keep sharp at the moment? I can't play. I can't really go out any track. I can't go to the gym. All I've really got is my garden, and Lydia's got a lot of sunshine by the looks of it. But
trying to block it out now. Carry
Look at
on.
that for illumination. You saw your curtain back, crack on it. You can answer first then, Charlotte. What can I do? Well, not me, but what can anyone who's waiting for a season hopefully begin at some point? What can you do at the moment? Oh, we've got this in the backyard. What can I do?
I think Lid's the best person to talk about this. She's been doing lots of stuff on Twitter that's keeping everyone engaged. So Lyd, you go for this. I'm not going to steal your thunder.
Okay. Yeah, I think obviously, I guess it's hard really if you haven't got the space or equipment. You have to, I guess, try and get a bit creative. But we've been doing some challenges online and on social media, as have a lot of people. But a lot of it is just based around simple stuff, you know, hand-eye coordination stuff, a tennis ball and a wall. It's amazing how many different drills you can come up with to test yourself. And I think probably people who have excelled at sport, part of their childhood and growing up is based around that. It's based around exploring different things, playing different sports, even moving differently, you know, different footwork patterns, setting out a few cones. It's hard, but I think if you can try and get as creative as possible, I think players will get quite a lot out of it. And Tam, I don't know if you've got any.
Yeah, what have you been doing?
What you've been doing?
Yeah, I've been out in the garden trying to do some fielding sessions on my own, just try and get as much as I can out of it, really. Like the big ones that our coaches are really worried about are sort of your throwing and your rotational stuff. So obviously with batting, it's a lot of sideways rotation stuff. So we're trying to make sure we get those kind of drills on. But yeah, I've been like throwing a tennis ball against the wall of the house. Yeah, I've been doing all sorts of drills in the garden. My neighbours love cricket and they've been playing like one on one bounce. I hear them every weekend and I'm so jealous I can't just jump over and play. But yeah, I've been dragging the housemates out to try and play with me if they will.
Tams, have you been given a training program to work on currently? You know, hopefully we'll get going sometime in the next month or two. Have the coaches been sending you, international coaches and all these strength and conditioning people, have they been sending you stuff to do?
Yeah, we've had quite a tough little program at the moment actually. We have to do like time our 4K runs and send them in and, you know, show improvement. We're having to find fields to do speed and fielding in. I've had to find out all the cricket balls in the house I can find just so I can do all these sessions. And I've turned my garage into a bit of a home gym. So I'm doing all right for kind of, all the training I need to get done. But it's certainly had to be a little bit inventive at times.
I was going to say, can't you just lie? Say, yeah, I did.
You can't anymore, Steve.
Can you not?
You get found out eventually.
They get you on their watches on all the Strava app. You can't lie.
Do they? Oh, really? Oh, okay. You better be doing it in Tams. Another question that's come in. This is from Jackie. Who is the best player that you ever played against and the best player that you ever played with? Charlotte, I think I read some comments from you fairly recently about Elise Perry saying it's probably the greatest ever we'll ever see. Elise Perry, as I've been lucky enough to see Elise Perry in the flesh many times, and I think hard to disagree with that, really.
Yeah, I mean, I probably just towards the back end of my career, Elise Perry was, you know, you could see she was really just about to kick on. So when I was playing, she probably wasn't the best, but by without a doubt now, I think across all formats, you know, she's as good as it gets. But when I was playing, there was a lady called Karen Moulton who played for Australia, left-handed batter, who smacked it. And I think if she'd have played in this day and age, especially in T20 cricket, yeah, I mean, her record speaks for itself. So she's probably the best player I played it against, yeah.
What about you, Lids?
Yeah, I'd have to say the same. From a batting point of view, Karen Moulton, I used to, I hate to say it as an English person, but she was a left-hander and I used to love watching her bat. She was powerful, but she timed the ball so well. In terms of bowlers, Catherine Fitzpatrick, another Aussie, she, in my opinion, I don't know if you would agree, but I think she's the biggest bowler that the women's game has seen so far, without a doubt. So those two, certainly. And then obviously playing with Lot, she's got to be the best player that I've played with. Definitely. So it's been nice to have a good view of that throughout my career.
Didn't you get asked, Lydia, a week or two back by Sky Sports to name your cricketing hero? And absolutely, I had to stop halfway through. I was almost in tears. I was so emotional reading this.
I texted.
Oh, you told her to say it, did you?
No, I didn't realise, and I read it, and I actually felt, I was like, oh, that's really lovely, and I sent her a message saying thanks for those lovely words, because you don't realise sometimes the impact you have on players, because we played so much with each other. I don't think there's many games I've actually played without Lyd, probably even Tammy, really, to an extent. We played a lot of cricket together, and you forget, sometimes, but it was lovely. Yeah, it was lovely to hear that.
And Tammy, bring it up to date for us as the nominated youngster.
Yeah.
The greatest player that you've played, you don't have to say with necessarily, but the player you've played against.
I guess Elise Perry's got to be the best player in the world at the moment, and by far, really. I think if she doesn't get you with the bat, she gets you with the ball or in the field. So in terms of a genuine all-rounder, I think, she's kind of heads and shoulders ahead of anyone at the moment, really, and particularly when she's batting, she's just incredibly difficult to get out. But I think playing with Lot over the years, she's certainly one of the best and one of the most determined players I think I've ever played with, and certainly to play with her being captain, I think really made us such a good team.
Last summer, I had to interview Meg Lanning several times as part of the Ashes series, and I had to keep asking her virtually every time I interviewed her about Elise Perry, because she'd done something that had been a pivotal moment in the game before. She virtually ripped my head off for keep asking about Elise Perry. She was not having. I think she almost smiled at one point. I'm not sure about that. Georgia, who plays for Kent's under-13s, says, what was the one piece of advice that someone gave you when you were coming through the county age groups that you think helped you the most with your cricket, with your career? Now, Georgia's playing for the Kent under-13s currently, so what sort of advice, Tams, were you getting at that age? What's that one thing that you think could be really helpful?
It's funny because I get asked this a lot, and I actually always say it was Charlotte Edwards telling me at 13, stop the good ones, hit the bad ones. But
that's exactly what I got taught, so I've passed it on to these lot. So
but yeah, I mean, I know that sounds really simple, but for me, if the England captain, one of the best England batters in ever, is sort of telling you to just keep it that simple and stop the good ones, hit the bad ones, then cricket can't be too complex, really, can it?
Can it really be that simple, Lyd, sometimes? Do you think we overcomplicate things, especially when we're talking like 12, 13 years of age?
Yeah, I think it's hard, because I remember the best piece of advice I got was there's always more time than you think from a batting point of view, and I still never mastered that for even in the shortest format of the game. I think sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you face dot balls, and then you play a rash shot, and then you're back in the pavilion watching the game, and you suddenly realise actually there's so much more time than you think. So I guess that's just another simple one is stop the good ones, hit the bad ones. But yeah, I certainly remember that as a piece of advice I received.
Charlotte, you've kind of already answered this question, haven't you? Or Tammy's answered it for you. You told us about the advice from a young age. Leave the good ones, hit the bad ones. But seriously, that's good advice. I mean, someone like me who played club cricket, I just get bored afterwards. Someone keeps bowling me line and length from something, I can't get it away. I think, I'll stuff it, this one's going. And of course, then you get out. So, I mean, it can be something very simple, can't it?
Yeah, it is very simple. For T20 cricket, though, it's hit the good ones and hit the bad ones even further. So that's the T20 advice, because obviously you can't mess around. So I've moved it on a stage for T20 cricket. I don't know what I'll bring out for the 100. So just
hit all of them.
Oh, just hit everything, right? Okay, no, I couldn't do it. Kind of following on from that question, Zahir sent another one, and Jessica as well. They're kind of on the same theme here. Lydia, I'm going to start with you. I always think I was watching you accumulating runs, building an innings, and it says the question is, when you're in your mid-teens, how quickly did you manage to score runs consistently in a game? Consistency of runs.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think that comes with more than anything your mental sort of state of mind and your real, grit and determination to perform week in, week out. And I think that's what separates the brilliant players to the very good players, is just wherever they find it from. And Lottie is the best example for this. You score 100 and the following week, often players who score 100 then probably have a low score, but the brilliant players find something within them to just want to perform day in, day out, game in, game out. And sometimes that's a real personal thing. You know, you might have a goal that you want to achieve. It might be an external thing of getting a contract with you know, one of these 100 teams, but that's a personal thing that you have to find. But for me, it's about that mental ability and toughness to be able to keep that focus on what you want to achieve. Don't know if Lot and Tam, you'd agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the one for me is like, you know, you have enough low scores, you have enough bad days in cricket that if you get the chance to get in, make sure you make them pay and make that into a good day. So, you know, turn your bad days into good days, your good days into great days. And that's a way of finding that you'll stop getting, you know, pretty 20s and really work towards getting 50s, 60s, those sorts of things. And it is all about your mental toughness and your mental strength to really push for that. But I remember getting told quite early on when I was sort of 15, 16, you know, you have enough bad days at cricket, so make the good ones last. And yeah, certainly kind of you start again on naught next week. If you get 100, you start again on naught.
And Tam, so we're talking on the international scene here. There are so few test matches in the women's international game. Is it sometimes difficult to adjust when you're playing the longer format of the game on the international scene?
Yeah, definitely. I remember saying after 3 days into the test match at North Sydney Oval, I think in 2017, I remember sitting there with the head coach and I was like, I think I'm starting to get this test match batting now. And that was in the second innings on day 3 when we only play 4 days. And it's kind of like, if there was a second test, I'd know what I was trying to do a bit more. Whereas, you know, all we've done is play a 3-day warm-up game where we make sure everyone gets a go and then we're straight into an Ashes test. And you never quite remember it 2 years later when you get another test match round. And I think you do try and complicate it and think it's a test match and have to play a certain way when actually it's still the same sort of skills, just trying to do it for longer.
Charlotte, should there be more test matches in the women's international game?
Oh, I think there should be, but I'm not a current player. But I think there's an appetite from the players. When I watch them play it, there seems to be, they seem to really enjoy it. Would that be right, Tam? You just want to play more of it to be prepared for it. I think it's extremely hard for the players because they don't have any experience of doing it, and then they play every 2 years in one of the biggest games they play in, and I think it's really difficult. But I think I think some of the best games I've played in have been test matches, and me and Liv were really lucky to be in Perth in 2013 and win out there, and that's probably one of my most memorable games, really. But yeah, it's definitely a format that I think that should be continued.
There's another question that's come in. I can't find it, but it kind of links to this one I'm going to ask you now, which is what more should be done to further develop grassroots and girls cricket? There was a question somewhere, I can't find it on this screen here, but again, about if you've got a young girl in your household and she wants to play cricket, you think she might be quite good, you think she get so much out of playing the game, what is the route that we go down, and what more should the game be doing in general, Lydia?
Well, I think in terms of participation, I think the ECB have been great with their All-Stars programme at cricket clubs, and I think now they're bringing out an older programme. I think it's called the Dynamos, which is a similar focus just on getting younger people into the game, and the good thing about that, I think, is that it's mixed as well, so it's suddenly making cricket a much more gender neutral sport, and so I think for a young girl, again, it's breaking down barriers, that it isn't just a man or a boy sport. They can play it as well. I think schools as well now, so many more schools are playing cricket, but I think, as always, players, they don't train to train, they train to play. So I think it's important that they get match opportunities, whatever level. I think the playing opportunities certainly is a big one for me at grassroots level. How many competitions are there, and where can they go to find out how to enter them? I think that's a crucial one.
Charlotte, there was a question came in as well, and it was about when you started out. Was it very much a man's world that you were trying to break into?
Certainly a man's girl. I was the only woman. I think I speak on behalf of Tammy and Liv. I think they played a lot of boys and men's cricket, and I think we were very fortunate to play be good enough to play men's and boys cricket, because I think it does prepare you to play international cricket without a doubt. But yeah, it was tough growing up playing boys cricket, but I was good enough and I enjoyed it. And as I said, I think, you know, I wouldn't have had the success I've had I not have played it. And it was more the mental side of the game, that I was, you know, going to every game, I was being judged every time I played, you know, and had to score runs. So there was a pressure from an early age to actually be successful. So yeah, I think I would definitely say to any young girl, play boys and men's cricket for as long as you possibly can, because there's so many benefits from it on and off the field. It's fantastic.
When you started, Charlotte, did you used to get that thing where, like, oh no, I can't, the girl can't get me out, oh no, she can't smack me for six? Did you used to get all that?
Yeah, you did, but they quite quickly realised, I think, when they realise you can play, that they bowl properly at you. And I got a lot of sledging, but I relished it, and it was great fun. And it was they were more worried about whether I wore a box or not, really. That was the main question from the boys. And we don't, by the way.
I don't want to know. Tammy, what was your path from when you were a youngster into where you are now?
Yeah, very similar to Lottie and Lyd here. Like, I started out with my older brother, making up the numbers in the under 11s, and played a lot of boys cricket. And like Lottie said, you know, the first time you turn up, it was like, oh, they've got a girl playing, they must be rubbish. And then when you went and played the reciprocal fixture later that season, they were like, oh no, that girl's playing again, like they're going to be good. And it kind of spurred me on a lot more to kind of have that, right, I'm going to prove you wrong, to be honest. And I think that did help me a lot. But I think certainly now opportunities for young girls are so much wider and so much better, that hopefully, you know, not everyone has to do that if they don't want to. But certainly if they do want to, I wouldn't hesitate to get involved with boys and men's cricket if you can and want to.
Now, Tammy, this question that came in from Lily, I think you've kind of answered the second part of it, but I've got to mention this. It's to Tammy Beaumont, you are my inspiration. I wrote about you on International Women's Day, and I follow your career. Now, the question is, who is your inspiration and why? We know it's Charlotte Edwards, but what about that being written about on International Women's Day? You are an idol.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think, you know, only a few years ago, that kind of thing didn't really happen. And yeah, I see it on Twitter a few times, you know, people are dressing up like me to go to school like their hero. And yeah, it's surreal, it's mental. And, you know, I think, why would you want to be like me? But it's amazing that kind of can happen. And yeah, I remember, I'm going to embarrass myself now, but yeah, I was a big fan of Lydia Greenway and Charlotte Edwards growing up. They were in the England team. They were where I wanted to be. And then I remember being 13 years old, getting invited along to the Kent senior session and meeting them both in a net, and they were bowling at me. And I was so starstruck the whole ride home. I was telling Mum, did you see they bowled at me? Did you see? So yeah, I mean, these two are real inspirations, but as well as I had to look up to quite a few men that were always on TV as well.
And Lydia, I'm sure someone will be writing about you very soon on International Women's Day. This piece you wrote about Charlotte being your cricketing hero, did I read in there somewhere you whacked her straight on the knee first game, or in a trial or something?
Yeah, it's funny because Lot doesn't remember that, but I can remember it like it was yesterday, because as soon as it happened, so it was basically my first training session for Kent seniors, and I was 14, and it was about the time when County Champs was going to start up in Cambridge the following week. So I thought, right, I'm going to have to do well here. So we started with a fielding drill, and I threw the ball at a stump, and it carried on through. And if anyone knows, Lot hasn't got good knees, and it's just whacked her right on the knee. And I thought, oh no, that's the end of it before it's even started. But you don't remember it, do you, Lot?
No, I don't remember it.
Mm.
How can you not remember that? Are you just being nice? Or
No, I texted her. I said I didn't even remember you hitting me on the knee, but it's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Good job you did forget, otherwise history for you, Lydia Greenway, could have been very different. Yeah. Now, this is a question you know you're going to get, but I'm always fascinated by these. Caris Britton plays for Ashford. Caris is 10 and says, if you hadn't been a cricketer, what would you have liked to have been? Charlotte, I think I know what your answer is here, but you better tell us anyway.
What's my answer?
You're going to be a policewoman.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I would have liked. I'm quite nosy, so I would like to. I don't know if I'd cope with some of the stuff they have to do, but yeah, I'd quite like to be a policewoman.
Even now, you have to go around parks telling people not to sit on the bench too long.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Would you? Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be very good at chasing after anyone these days, though. Well, probably not even 10 years ago.
Listen, I got ticked off by one last week in Kelsey Park. Yeah, saying, well, you better finish that coffee quick and move on, mate. So perhaps you would like to do that. I don't know. Liz, what would you have done if you weren't an international cricketer and now a coach and commentator?
Yeah, when I was younger, police officer was on the radar. But then I think maybe PE teacher. I think I just like the idea of being outside, playing sports, that sort of stuff. Yeah, probably one of those two, I think. But yeah, like a lot police officer, it's a big job, and I'm not too sure I'd be up to it, but I think it would be quite interesting.
Tammy, you're going to complete the set. Did you want to be a police officer?
No, I didn't actually. I probably would have fallen into being a scientist like my dad and my brother, but I think physio was on the radar for a little bit as well.
And a question for you, I mean, we've seen what Charlotte and Lydia have done with their playing careers have finished. Tammy's going to be years away for you yet, being the youngster, but you got any ideas? Would you like to move into a coaching role?
At the minute, I'm just trying to keep my options open. I've actually been using this kind of lockdown to do some sort of personal development stuff if I can. But yeah, I mean, I've had a taste of quite a few things. I've done my level 3 coaching course. So hopefully if I choose to go into coaching, I think, I'm really lucky now that there's so many roles to kind of go into after I finish cricket. Charlotte and Lydia are starting in the 100. Maybe I'll get to be one of their assistants one day. If I'm desperate for a job, I'll be calling them up. But, like that. There's so many opportunities now, but I could end up going into broadcasting, or I could just walk away from cricket entirely. So I feel very privileged to kind of be in the era of cricket that I am, that it's not just about the players, it's also about what comes afterwards as well.
Another question that we get every week, by the way, which I love asking, I love hearing the answers, is if you could nominate one person to spend this lockdown with, who would it be? And for Lydia and Tammy, your answer cannot be Charlotte Edwards, and I'm going to ask you Charlotte first.
They wouldn't do with me. I'm boring.
Oh, they would.
You make a good coupler there.
Sorry.
Go on, Charlotte.
Oh no, I need time to think about this.
Oh, okay. Go on, Liz. You must have an answer here.
Can I just clarify the question? Is it of a Kent teammate? Is that the question?
Yeah, you could pick out a Kent teammate or an England teammate or anyone else. It could be anyone.
Okay. Oh no, we should have prepared for this.
Yeah.
This is.
Go on, Lot.
Sorry. I'd want to be in lockdown with Adele, because she could sing all the time, and it'd be amazing, and learn to sing. How good would that be?
Yeah. Or maybe a really good chef. A good chef would be nice.
Yeah. Either or.
Mary Berry. That would be good.
No, I'd get really fat, Liz, so let's stick with Adele.
Got to be Delia Smith.
7 stone as well.
Yeah, Adele's good. Delia Smith's the one for this. She's got her own football club. Tammy, if you were going to spend your time in lockdown, who would it be with?
Oh, I got asked this about cricketers the other week. So I think I said Rashid Khan, because he'd just bowl all day. Then I was like Mark Wood, because he just seems hilarious. And then Danny Wyatt, because she makes a great cup of tea and she'd always want to be doing something. So I guess I've got to stick with them, really.
That's a big house for lockdown. We're just about time up here, and every week what we do is we pick out a star question. The sender of the star question wins a prize from Spitfire. I think it's a crate of Spitfire, I think. Anyway, thank you very much to Shepherd Neame for providing it. Roger sent it in, the star question, to finish up here. The quality of the women's game seems to have improved massively in the last 5 years. Which area of the skills do you feel has made the most advance, and why? Lydia, we'll start with you on that one.
Batting for me, I think, all round. I think the power that the players generate and the repertoire of shots they all have now, I think, has improved massively. And I think for young girls, watching the game now, I think it's a real opportunity for them to watch and learn and really challenge themselves to try and get up to speed with everything that's going on in the game. But yeah, for me, batting, definitely.
Tams, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, Yeah, there's so many. I think the depth of batting among teams as well. Like Karen Rolton would have fitted into this area easily, but kind of your numbers 6, 7, 8 now are clearing the boundary as well, and or you kind of each team's got that depth and a couple of players that can just take the game away from you by clearing the ropes at will. So certainly the power, but also like that the S&C and the kind of you don't pick up so many injuries. The fielding's a lot more athletic. I mean, Lydia was ahead of her time really in some of the catches I've seen her take, but now it's almost expected that you've got to be almost as good as Lyd just to get on the park pretty much.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Having watched, been involved in the women's game, I don't know, about 8, 9 years now. I think particularly the fielding has improved massively. Charlotte, you're going to give us a clean sweep of batting as the area that's advanced most?
Yeah, it's power and, like Tammy said, athleticism in the field. I think that's the one thing in the last 3 or 4 years. I think everyone has to be able to field. Now, you can't just be, you can't have just one skill, really. You've got to be able to field as a batter, and, that's definitely something. And, it's really enjoyable to watch. The T20 format now for women's cricket is fantastic, and hopefully will attract many young girls to want to play the game.
Okay, thank you very much, Roger, for that star question. You win the prize courtesy of Spitfire and Shepherd Neame. Time has beaten us. So many questions sent in tonight and during this webinar, I think we call it. So thank you very much, and apologies if we didn't get round to you. We just had so many tonight. There'll be another Spitfire session coming soon. Announcements will follow on the Kent website and social media channels. And don't forget the big event coming up this Sunday. In the meantime, can I say thank you very much for joining us, Charlotte Edwards. Thank you, Charlotte. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you very much.
Tammy Beaumont, make sure you're doing those runs because they can get you on the old watch, Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And Lydia Greenway, I hope it's not too long until I stroll past a coffee shop and see you at a cappuccino and a toasted munching panini or something. Thank you very much, Liz, for joining us. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in to this latest Spitfire session and for all the questions. And don't forget the Rainbow Run, which is coming up this Sunday. Details on the Kent website. Details there, too, of our next Spitfire session. We'll see you soon.